Hi, Mac here. Today I want to go over the installation of the window vent visors on the Ford Maverick. I had them installed on this vehicle actually, and I didn't like the way they changed the look of the vehicle on the side view. So I took those off. I originally installed them with the top edge of the visor, even with the top point here on the mirror trim. That's how it's shown on the Ford website. And when you do that, you have to put this adhesive strip right on this rubber strip here. And that didn't seem like the best of ideas. I didn't think it would stick very well. It seemed to, but there again, the visor came down so far that it just changed the view too much, and I didn't like that, so I took them off. I did some research on how they were intended to be installed, because there's some variations out there. People are installing the visors in different ways, which is fine. You do whatever you like, but I thought there has to be a way they were intended to be installed, and that didn't seem to be it. So I did some research. I talked to Auto Vent Shade, the manufacturer of the visor, and I got a photo from them that shows how they intended the visors to be installed in the Maverick. And there's another way people are doing them. Also, they're putting the top edge of the visor even with the top of the door frame. But when they do that, the plastic tab sticks up here above the mirror trim. And I thought, that can't be right. I mean, it just doesn't look quite right. So I'll go in and show you the photos I have from AVS and then the Ford website. And I'll show you that one modification. If you're going to install the visors up tight against the top edge of the door, the one modification I think would improve that installation. So let's get going with that. So here we are at the Ford website. It's Ford Accessories. And this is the photo they show of the window visors installed on the Maverick. And as you can see, they have the top edge of the visor even with the top of that plastic mirror trim. I thought, well, that seems reasonable, makes sense, looks good. And after I installed them that way, I just wasn't real happy with that. And I did the research, and I talked to, I looked at the instructions. Of course, I looked at them first. And the instructions are just generic in nature here. And the really important thing on the instructions are the phone number right there. And that phone number is for Auto Vent Shade. And I talked to them, and they sent me a photo of the Maverick with the visors on it. As you can see, this still has the incognito plastic wrap on the Maverick. So this is an early photo. And they said I could share this on YouTube. But there they show the visor installed with about a maybe 1/2 inch or 5/8 reveal on top of the window visor. When they do that, the radius on the back corner of that visor, matches the radius of the vehicle. And they don't, the plastic tab, there's a tab on the front of that visor tucks underneath that mirror trim. And it's still concealed because the visor isn't up that high. Now, if you slide that visor up that last 1/2 inch, that plastic tab will pop up above that plastic mirror trim. And I think that needs to be trimmed a bit. So we'll go back out the Maverick. I am not going to install these visors today. I'll have to decide if I want to put them back on. But for those of you who do, this is from Auto Vent Shade, the manufacturer, and this is how they intended the visor to be installed on the Maverick. I just wanted to show the positioning for this visor with a couple different install options. This is one I've taken off. I have the adhesive strip removed. I pulled that off of there. I'll have to put a new strip on if I want to install these. But the way I installed them, here's that tab I was talking about on the visor. It just goes in behind the plastic mirror trim. And if you install it flush, this is how I had installed it. About like this, flush at the top. I thought that would look the best. I like the detail up here of how it looked, nice and clean. But the visor came down in the window so far, it blocked a lot of the view there. You see how far it came down? And I just didn't like that. And also, the adhesive strips along the top edge of the mirror here. And you'd have to stick it on the rubber. And I don't think there's any way it's going to adhere as well on the rubber as it would on the painted surface. The way AVS intends them to be installed is about like this. Tabs tucked in, come on, get up there. Something like this, with a little bit of paint reveal along the top of the visor. Something like that. The way I've seen them installed most commonly is way up against the top edge, and you know, I think this probably looks about the best doing that. I kind of like that look where it hides the whole door trim, the painted surface, and you're getting that visor still stuck on the paint. But now if you look here, this plastic tab is sticking up above the mirror. Let's see if I can get that in for you and take a look at that a little better. You see how that plastic tab is sticking up above the mirror trim. And I think that little plastic tab needs to be trimmed a bit if you're going to install them that way. So let me trim that real quick and I'll come back out and put this in place again and see how it looks. I'm just going to use a hacksaw to try to trim this. I'm going to try to be really careful of this edge here where it butts up against the plastic trim on the mirror. I don't want to ding that up. You can see I just made a straight cut with a hacksaw blade. I put a small scratch mark where I wanted to go down to. I'll go down slightly past that. This is where you want to be careful not to scrape the surface of that visor. You'll ruin the visor. I know I'm doing this backwards. I'd have to flip it over to do it the way that's a little more comfortable. And I'm getting a little bit crooked. I'll go back in there and see if I can get this. I'm keeping this really close to the edge of my workbench here so it doesn't flex so much. When I get closer to that edge, I'll have to really get this blade vertical and then slow down a bit and even undercut it a little bit. You can cut on the pull stroke too of the hacksaw, and it will give you a finer cut in this plastic on that final little bit. Now I've turned the blade back so when it pops through, I'll hit the back underside of the visor before I hit this front edge. You just saw that in real time. Now I'm going to clean that edge up a little bit. I just have a little piece of old base shoe. I'm going to wrap some 400 grit wet dry around here. And try to straighten that edge up here just a bit. And I did sand all the edges of these visors when I first got them. The edges were really rough all the way along. I just took the 400 wet dry in the palm of my hand and went around the edges like this. Again, being careful not to scratch the surface, you'll ruin them. I think that's just about it. I got that tab trimmed down. I got that fairly straight. That's what I was after. So there we go. Let's go stick these back on real quick and see. I think that will make that install look better. So let's go back out and get this looked at. Let's see how that looks with the edge trimmed and up against the top of the door frame. Now you get up against the top of the door frame up here, and your plastic tab isn't sticking up. So I think that cleans up that installation a lot better. I may install the visors this way and see how I like them. I think I would like it better this way than the way I originally installed them. But that's it. You've got some options. You can install it up here like a lot of people have done. Trim that tab, it cleans up the install a bit. Slide it down like AVS recommends. Or put it down here like the Ford photo shows. But then you're sticking on the rubber. So you decide what's going to work for you. But there are some tips for that. So there you have it. Several different ways to install that visor. Do what works for you. But I think the information I gave you from AVS is absolutely correct. That's how they intend the visor to be installed. With that one simple modification of trimming that front tab, you can raise it up, it looks clean, you don't have a tab sticking up behind that plastic trim in the mirror. I think that's a great way to do it also. If you want to install it lower so you have a flush fit here between the mirror trim and the visor, that's an option too, but be aware you're going to stick it on the rubber. I don't think it's going to adhere as well, but that's your call, guys. Hey, the next video I'm going to do is on installation of the engine cover on the Maverick. I've ordered that cover a week and a half ago. It was supposed to be in after about a week. It is not in yet. It might be one of those items they tell you a week and it's maybe a month. So we'll see when that comes in. I want to do that video. If it's the right part, I will share that information with you. I'm also going to do a video on how I am going to try to extend the life of the engine, maybe prevent some of the carbon buildup on the intake valves from the GDI engines. And I'll do that, and I'll get that put together, and I'll share that with you also. So thanks for watching. Until next time, Mac here.